Action.
At the time of the festival of Passover, Jesus travelled to Jerusalem with his disciples. As they rode into the city on the back of a donkey, or rather just Jesus was on the donkey, crowds of people lined the street to greet him. Some spread their cloaks on the ground in front of him, and others waved long branches of palm leaves.
Hosanna in the highest.
They shouted together, and didn't they mean it? It was a welcome fit for any king. A few days later, Jesus sat down with his disciples to share a Passover feast.
This is the last meal we shall share together,
He told the astonished disciples. Then he picked up some bread, blessed it, and broke it into pieces.
Eat this bread. This is to remind you of me.
Then he poured a cup of wine and passed it round for all of them to share.
Drink this wine. This is to remind you that my blood will be shed for you.
The disciples did what Jesus asked. Then Jesus said,
One of you sitting here will betray me.
the disciples were gobsmacked. They could not believe their ears. Quietly, Simon Peter asked,
Lord, who will it be?
Jesus did not reply, but he took a piece of bread and dipped it in some wine. Then he handed it to Judas and said,
Go and do what you have to do.
For Jesus knew that his enemies had offered Judas 30 pieces of silver to betray his master. Judas rushed out of the room. Look at him rush. Later that night, they went to the Garden of Gethsemane on the Mount of Olives. While they were there, Judas led the soldiers to him.
The man I kiss is the man you want.
Then he went up to Jesus and kissed him. At once the soldiers grabbed Jesus and dragged him away to prison. The next day, he was taken to Golgotha and nailed to a cross and left to die. While on the cross, he shouted.
Forgive them, Father, for they do not know what they are doing.
Later that day, Jesus died. His disciples took his body away and put it in a tomb. And 3 days later, they returned to the tomb and were amazed to find it empty. Yes, it was empty. The stone had been rolled away, and an angel appeared and said to them,
You're looking for Jesus. Don't worry, he hasn't gone. He's risen from the dead.
and it explained everything perfectly. No one questioned anything. And that was the story of the crucifixion and the resurrection.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, meanwhile, Judas, who was ashamed to the point of suicide, actually found hanged himself.
Very good.